At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025. You are listening to the Daly Dose Sports Podcast, and I am your host, Clint Daly, coming to you from the Mile High City here in Denver, Colorado, and we are back for another week of talking sports with a dose of common sense. Hey, happy Wednesday to you. I hope that you had a good weekend. I hope your week is going well, and hey, don't look now, but you are halfway to another weekend, and if you're here in the United States at least, you're on your way to a 3-day holiday weekend as we celebrate our Independence Day by, well, doing what we normally do, eating way too much and using an abundance of explosives. Rock, flag, and eagle! But I hope that you, your family, your friends, everyone in your world is staying strong and healthy right now. And I'm really hoping that as I come to you today on July 2nd, that we're not actually celebrating the last few days of you having all your digits. Hey, stay safe, kids. We know the problems that go on the 4th of July. And yes, we are back after a brief week off. I hope that you enjoyed our best of show last week. Did a little bit of an NBA best of show. And yes, I took some time off last week. Took the family down to Mexico for a week with some friends, with some family. Spent a week in Mexico with the NPG mayor and his lovely wife. Had a great time in the sun. Ate phenomenal food. Just truly enjoyed the week off. And it was a much needed break for us. It's been a busy, busy year. And, you know, while we were down there, we did watch Game 7 of those NBA Finals down in the hotel lounge last week as the Oklahoma City Thunder were able to knock off the Indiana Pacers in Game 7, 103-91. And they win the NBA title. And I'm going to say they win their first NBA title. Because, yeah, we know another city long ago won it, and that city's franchise changed the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is their first title. Spin it however you want. But you know what I noticed when we were down in the hotel lounge watching that game? No one else was watching. No one cared. And you know what? It turned out it wasn't just at our resort. It turns out it wasn't just in Mexico. No one watched. Once again, the NBA pulled horrendous numbers. They had just 10.2 million viewers per game. This isn't good. That is the lowest number since that horrible COVID season, and yet another example of how the NBA is failing, despite them telling us, no, everything's fine. Everything's good. Yes, I know. This was a small market finals, but it was an entertaining finals, and it just makes me think that once again, the NBA has shot themselves in the foot over and over again with their poor product, their players that don't want to play, and I hate to say their divisive politics. You know, Michael Jordan might have had a pretty strong point when he said Republicans buy sneakers too. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was named the finals MVP, even though his game is a little tough to watch. And that doesn't help the finals ratings either, because it's not like he has a spectacular Michael Jordan-esque game. He has this ugly game of leaning into guys and drawing fouls and spending most of his time at the free throw line. Of course, after the game, there was talk in the sports media world that maybe this Thunder team is an all-time great. I mean, maybe, but they barely beat a one-man Denver Nuggets team, and I'm not even sure they win the finals if not for Tyrese Haliburton blowing his Achilles in Game 7. But as usual, the sports media world likes to try to make things up that have no factual basis to them whatsoever, especially at this time of year. Hey, remember, you should be stopping by DailyDoseSports.com every week to check out what new things we have going on over there. We have links to the podcast. We have links to new articles each week. Those articles are usually a little more local flavored in the Rocky Mountain region each week. So be sure to check those out. You can also email the podcast at dailydosesports@gmail.com. We would love to hear what you have to say. And if you need some Daily Dose gear, t-shirt, hoodie, sweatshirt, maybe a baseball cap, you can find it at dailydosesports.com. Check out the links we have over there. Hey, today on the show, like I said, we were out last week, but a number of things are taking place right now, and we are going to recap a few of the top stories and discuss what we are learning from them. We will also take a very brief glimpse at some winners and losers from last week's NBA draft. It was a bit of a fiasco. And we will have the return of the Daily Dose Top 5 today. Like we just mentioned, the Indiana Pacers lost Tyrese Haliburton to a blown Achilles in Game 7, and make no mistake, it was impactful. Well, we have a few more injuries that have impacted the NBA postseason. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But first, one of the first things we learned is that NBA free agency, it might not have the biggest names, but it does have those kind of next tier guys moving around. Damian Lillard has been cut from Milwaukee. Miles Turner is going to Milwaukee. And the Phoenix Suns are trying to build a team that will literally not register a single assist next season. The Suns traded away superstar Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets for Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks last week, which means that the Suns will now have Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal on the same team. Get ready for some ugly one-on-one basketball, kids, because none of those dudes like to pass. Meanwhile, can't believe I'm saying this, but the Houston Rockets, they're starting to look like a contender to me. I really like what they're building down there. Sure, Kevin Durant will probably end up injured or whining about something, but hey, that team is becoming dangerous. I really like what Houston is doing. Another big story in the NBA, and that is that we have learned that LeBron James, well, he's going to be LeBron James. Because Los Angeles Lakers star LeBron James has exercised that $52.6 million player option for the upcoming season. That was announced on Sunday. James, of course, is the NBA's career leading scorer, and he says he wants to compete for a championship next season and potentially beyond, and that he will closely be monitoring the Lakers' moves and whether the team is positioning itself to field a title-contending roster. That is what his longtime agent Rich Paul had to say. Here's what Paul told ESPN. LeBron wants to compete for a championship. He knows the Lakers are building for the future. He understands that, but he values a realistic chance of winning it all. We understand the difficulty in winning now while preparing for the future, but we do want to evaluate what's best for LeBron at this stage in his life and career. He wants to make every season he has left count, and the Lakers understand that and are supportive and want what's best for him. Okay, couple of thoughts on this. First, don't say you're taking that $52.6 million and then talk about how you'll be closely monitoring what the Lakers are doing to build a winner. You took all the money. They can't do much. Here's a question. Is this just another passive-aggressive statement by LeBron James? Who, by the way, not only leads the league in minutes and seasons and points, but also leads the league in passive-aggressive statements. But is he saying this because maybe he wants to go elsewhere? Because make no mistake, this new ownership that the Lakers have, I'm going to get to that in just a minute, they're not going to build around him. They're going to build around Luka Doncic. It sounds crazy, but LeBron moving, I guess, might be in play. Yes, he has a trade exemption in his contract. But if you're the new Lakers owners, wouldn't you at least looking at it? And like I said, speaking of those new Lakers owners, we learned that the Lakers are finally taking a step into the year 2025. Well, really into the year, 2000, because it seems the Lakers have sold their majority ownership for $10 billion with a B dollars to Mark Walter and diversified holding company TWG Global, which also owns the Los Angeles Dodgers. That was a surprising move. Not sure anybody really saw that coming, but it ends the bizarrely mediocre run of Jeannie Buss, who they say will remain on as team governor for the Lakers, at least for now. Now, I've said it over and over. But for a franchise that is supposed to be one of the most prominent franchises on the planet, why are the Lakers always run like a fading out mom and pop shop? They spend money so bizarrely. They get upside down on contracts. They hire coaches that make zero sense, mostly because they're like old friends. Oh, Magic Johnson, come on back. I know you never coached, but come on back. You'll be great. Kurt Rambis, Byron Scott, Darvin Ham. What are they doing? Jeannie Buss has been an unmitigated disaster. If the new owners come in and run this like they run the Dodgers, this will be a massive step into modern times for the Lakers. Then again, in order to do that, like I said, they may have to move past LeBron James because he's tying up a ton of money. It isn't just the Los Angeles Lakers that are in a bit of a transition. We've learned that the Boston Celtics seem to be bringing their franchise, completely to the ground after that devastating injury to Jason Tatum in the NBA playoffs. The Celtics have now traded away both Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday, which does shed some serious contract money for them. It does also leave them with some massive roster holes. Now, I don't think they're going to burn it clear to the ground. And they don't have to. They have now lowered their payroll quite a bit. And here's what's crazy. The Eastern Conference is still so bad. Honestly, the Celtics can still compete. I don't think they're out of it yet. They could be a 4 or 5 seed easy enough because the East just isn't very good, but they did shed some serious salary. Finally, we may not have learned it exactly, but we were reminded that all of these sports leagues jumping into bed with sports betting just might have ramifications. Yes, it seems federal authorities are investigating Detroit Pistons guard Malik Beasley on allegations of gambling related to NBA games and prop bets. That was announced over the weekend. Beasley's NBA future is in jeopardy after reports surfaced over the weekend that the U.S. District Attorney's Office is investigating him for gambling on games. Now, if true, Beasley could be the second NBA player to get banned for life by Commissioner Adam Silver. You might remember former Toronto Raptors forward Jonte Porter was the first one. However, unlike Porter, Beasley could be a contributor to a title-contending team. He was playing pretty well. Detroit looked pretty solid in the playoffs. They were looking like they were building something. The 9-year veteran had a breakout year this year for the Pistons. He finished second in the NBA Sixth Man of the Year voting. Beasley shot over 41% from beyond the three-point line. He hit the second most three-pointers in the league while averaging a career-best 16.3 points per game. Now, keep one thing in mind. This isn't the NBA investigating Beasley. Oh, this is way above their pay grade.
The circuits that cannot be cut are cut automatically in response to a terrorist incident. You asked for miracles, dear. I give you the FBI.
This is not the NBA investigators looking at this, because investigators are looking at whether or not Malik Beasley was shaving points. And I'll say this. If you go look at some film, I've looked at a little, there are, let's say, some very odd coincidences. But here's the thing. That's not just a league violation. That's a federal crime. This is serious if it's true. Now, you know these stories are just going to keep happening. You tell these guys they can't bet, but betting is literally everywhere. Somebody comes up a little short on money. hey, you know, I spent a little too much, had another divorce, had another kid, and they know I could make some quick money. I know exactly where I could make some. Yeah, except the FBI is looking for exactly that. This would be the second time it has happened in the NBA. Hey, I hate to say this. I hate to keep harping on this, but the NBA is a mess. Thanks, Adam Silver. Bang up job you're doing, you weirdo alien. Of course, the 2025 NBA draft took place last week, and I don't want to dig into it too much because so many of these kids aren't even legally adults yet. But we did see a few winners and losers that we can already glean already from this draft. But one thing I have to ask, why was the draft last week? Think about it. The season ended on what, Monday? And then the draft started on Tuesday. Why are you doing this? Shouldn't the NBA be smarter than this? I mean, why wouldn't you have it later this month? Why wouldn't you have it in July? Why wouldn't you have a huge stage to have it on instead of trying to sneak it under the radar? You're not Major League Baseball trying to hold games in the middle of the night. What are you doing? The NBA, honestly, they just make me shake my head. I just don't understand it. And you know what it is? I realize we all look at our own eras and we say, well, my era was wonderful. But you got to understand, my era was wonderful. I got to watch Magic and Bird and Doc and MJ and Barkley and all these amazing players that wanted to play every night. And it was an event. It was a big thing. People tuned in. They got big ratings. There was talk maybe the NBA is going to catch up to the NFL. Remember Mark Cuban was telling us that? Hey, the NFL better be careful. We're coming for him. Are you? Are you really? Because you're holding your draft on like a Tuesday night. No one even knows it's happening and no one's watching your games. And I don't want to hear the nonsense about, well, no one watches TV anymore. Well, how come they're watching the NFL? The NFL is pulling like 24 million on a Thursday night on like Amazon Prime. The NBA getting on my doggone nerves. Anyways, now that I got that off my chest, we're going to discuss some winners and losers from the NBA draft. I'm going to name the Dallas Mavericks our first winner as they are coming off of maybe the most tumultuous season in franchise history. Because you'll remember, they gave away superstar Luka Doncic for a bag of magic beans to the Los Angeles Lakers. Why? Let the conspiracies run wild. I don't know. Well, the Mavericks had a 1.8% chance of winning the draft lottery, but magically, maybe those beans worked because they did win the lottery. And as a result, they were able to select Duke superstar Cooper Flagg. Hey, Cooper Flagg is the most sure thing in this entire draft class. And I know people get sick of Duke, and I know people probably got sick of Cooper Flagg being on every night in college basketball. You know what? He's really good. He works really hard. He's a really good kid. He doesn't really seem to have too many flaws in his game. Hey, if there is a more sure thing that has come out recently, I don't know who it is. Cooper Flagg is Tim Duncan-ish. I mean, he looks that solid. Dallas hit the jackpot. Was it fake? Should there be conspiracy theories about how Dallas went from the most hated franchise by their own fans to suddenly, hey, they're kind of building something in Dallas? Yeah, we should look at all that. And also, they got a stud. I love Cooper Flagg. I think he's going to be big time. I'm going to give a loser, though. And I'm going to give it to overall number 5 selection, Ace Bailey out of Rutgers. Somehow, both Ace Bailey, who is drafted at number 5, and his Rutgers teammate Dylan Harper, who is drafted at number 2, were top 5 picks, despite the fact that their Rutgers team finished under 500 last season. Now, if you have 2 guys that are top 5 picks, shouldn't you be able to win a few games in college? That's a little weird, right? It's a little strange. I mean, there are times you get a weird situation or a really tough league, but you're at Rutgers, 2 top 5 guys, couldn't win any games. Okay, but I digress. Because the news gets worse for Bailey. It seems that this young lad had refused to work out for most of the teams that were drafting in the top 10. He didn't like them, so he wouldn't work out for them. They say he wanted to go to either Washington, New Orleans, or Brooklyn. Instead, Ace Bailey got selected by the Utah Jazz. Now, to be fair, he has a chance to go do something in Utah. And to be fair, Utah would be a great town. You win in Utah, that town will love you. And also, it's a dry county with a lot of dry women. But hey, we're going to have to see if he is mature enough to now put that stuff aside and go do his job. It doesn't seem like he will be. Based on the choices he's made so far, it seems like maturity could be an issue. But we'll see if he can actually go fit in and do his job with the Utah Jazz. I'm going to give one final winner, and I'm going to give it to the San Antonio Spurs, who did select Dylan Harper out of Rutgers with that number 2 overall pick. Now, again, I just talked about it. I'm not sure this pick makes sense. One, here's a kid out of Rutgers with his teammate, drafted at 5. They didn't win anything. Kind of sketchy already. Also, Harper is a really shaky shooter. Well, what are you going to be asked to do down in San Antonio? Well, you're going to be asked to knock down shots, because then that will open up a lane for big man Victor Wembanyama. Can Dylan Harper make them? Doubt it. I mean, it doesn't look good. Based on what he did in college, I would say probably not that much. So that seems dicey already. However, I am going to give the Spurs a winner. And do you know why? Because Dylan Harper's mother, Maria, is going to be at a lot of home games. And if you saw that woman on draft night, then you know that she is the real MVP.
You the real MVP.
Dylan Harper's mom just don't know. Finally, I will give our final draft loser. Yes, I know this is a short segment, but I don't want to talk about the NBA draft that long. It's a mess anyway. But I'm going to give our final draft loser to the New Orleans Pelicans, who are a mess already. However, what they did on draft night, it's bizarre. I don't even know how to explain it. So get this. The Pelicans are already a mess, right? They can't get Zion Williamson to play. He's too fat for his own legs or whatever. And we know they're probably not going to be very good this coming season. Okay. So please explain to me why in the world the Pelicans would trade next year's first-round pick, which, by the way, is an unprotected pick, to Atlanta in order to trade up for Maryland's big man Derek Queen at number 13. One, you already have a big kid in Zion, so why did you need this one? And two, if you're as bad as you kind of look like you could be, that pick could easily be a lottery pick. And you let it go for the 13 pick in this year's draft to a kid that has some upside, but this isn't a franchise changer. Derek Queen? Really? That's who you traded up for? I have no idea what they're doing. It is almost like the Pelicans are trying to lose. This is seriously one of the dumbest moves we have seen in NBA draft history. I don't get it. I don't understand what they're doing, and no one does. Now, as we do so many weeks here at the Daily Dose, we need to get over to our Daily Dose Top 5. Like we talked about earlier, the Indiana Pacers took the Oklahoma City Thunder to a deciding 7th game last week. And hey, early on in Game 7, it kind of looked like Indiana might have a shot at pulling off the upset. Late in the first quarter, with the Pacers up 18-16, Tyrese Haliburton went down with an injury. Turned out to be a blown Achilles. Yeah, so he's basically gone for a full calendar year. The Thunder, of course, went on to win, and we all couldn't help but wonder what might have happened if Haliburton had stayed healthy. But hey, it isn't the first time we have seen an injury have a massive impact in the NBA postseason. Today, our Daly Dose Top 5 is counting down the top 5 most devastating NBA postseason injuries of all time. We start off at number 5. And we go back to the year 2017, where the Golden State Warriors were cruising. They rolled to a 67-15 record with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant, and had swept both Portland and Utah in the first 2 rounds. In the first game of the Western Conference Finals, they ran into a surprising San Antonio Spurs team, and that Spurs team had other ideas. The Spurs were a little older, and they were tough. They had Pau Gasol, they had LaMarcus Aldridge, and they had Kawhi Leonard, and in Game 1, the Spurs did to the Warriors what no one else seemed to be able to do. They actually had the Warriors on the ropes. The Spurs had a 21-point lead, and they looked more than capable of matching up the Warriors. But then lightning struck. Kawhi Leonard stepped on his teammate's foot, rolled his ankle, and was done for the series. Not only did the Spurs lose Kawhi for the rest of the series, they lost that game because the Warriors outscored them 71-49 in the second half, and they would get swept. And Kawhi would soon be headed out of San Antonio. Hey, maybe the Warriors were going to win anyway. I don't know. But that first half of that Game 1, it sure felt like the Spurs were going to be a problem with Kawhi in the lineup. And then he was gone. And that comes in at number 5. We arrive at number 4. And for this one, we go back to the year 1988. Ah, yes, the glory days. The Detroit Pistons had lost the Eastern Conference Finals in the worst way in the previous year in 87. Holding a 1-point lead, the Pistons allowed Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics to steal the game away in the final seconds. Well, now the Pistons were back. They had beaten the Celtics in 6 games, and they would face the Lakers in the NBA Finals. Well, tied at 2 apiece, the Pistons won Game 5 to take a 3-2 lead. They put the Lakers on the brink of elimination. Hey, 2 games left, just win 1. However, in Game 6, Pistons star guard Isaiah Thomas would suffer an ankle injury, and he just wasn't the same. Somehow, he hobbled to 43 points in Game 6, but the Pistons lost a heartbreaker, and in Game 7, Isaiah couldn't go. He gave it a shot, but he just didn't have his usual explosion, and the Lakers would come back and win the deciding Game 7. Hey, if Isaiah Thomas is healthy, I think the Pistons win that series in 6. Instead, they lost and would have to wait another year to finally get that title. They come in today at number 4. We reach number 3 on our list of impactful postseason injuries in the NBA. And we go to the year 2003, where the Dallas Mavericks and San Antonio Spurs had both finished with a 60-22 record. It looked like they were on a collision course in the NBA postseason. Well, after Dallas beat Portland and Sacramento, and the Spurs put away the Suns and the Lakers, here we go. An all-Texas blockbuster matchup in the Western Conference Finals. It looked like it was going to be amazing. The team split the first 2 games. Hey, we're in for a classic. And then in Game 3, Maverick star Dirk Nowitzki would collide with Manu Ginobili and would miss the rest of the series with a banged-up knee. The Spurs would win the series in just 6 games, and you know Dirk would have made a huge difference. But he couldn't go. And that lands the Mavericks today at number 3. We land at number 2 on our list of postseason NBA injuries. And we go back to the year 2012, just 1 year removed from being the youngest MVP in NBA history. Derrick Rose had led the Chicago Bulls to the number 1 seed with a 50-16 record. They finished 4 games ahead of second place, and it looked like Chicago had their best chance to win a title since the Michael Jordan era. However, in their first round matchup against Philadelphia, Derrick Rose blew his ACL. Hey, Rose would never be the same. The Bulls haven't been back in contention since. They would get beat by Philly in that series in 6 games. Hey, it would be tough to come up with a more devastating injury in the NBA postseason than Derrick Rose in 2012. However, it only comes in today at number 2, so we must have a bigger one. Yes, we reached the #1 most devastating injury in NBA postseason history. And if Derrick Rose and the Bulls were bad, then this one has to be worse. And it is. Because this team had won back-to-back titles. They were on their way to a three-peat. However, not only did the 2019 Golden State Warriors lose Kevin Durant in Game 5 of the NBA Finals to Toronto, he had a blown Achilles, but in Game 6, they also lost Klay Thompson to a torn ACL. The Raptors would close out the Warriors in 6 games. Hey, the Indiana Pacers gave the Oklahoma City Thunder all they wanted for 6 and even part of 7 games. They were on the verge of maybe pulling out an improbable title. However, they came up short. And now they have to wait, most likely, 2 years until Tyrese is back fully, if he ever is. But will the Pacers be like the Bulls and take a bigger step backward? Or will they be like the Pistons that had that injury to Isaiah? And while it set them back temporarily, they ended up rallying to go back and win titles the next 2 seasons. We will see what Indiana has in store coming next year. Hey, next week on The Dose, we will of course be keeping an eye on all of the movement going on in the world of sports, including more NBA free agency. And we might have to take an actual look at Major League Baseball. I know we kind of tend to drift away from that as much as possible, but they are past the halfway point. Might have to look a little bit at Major League Baseball. So make sure you check out The Dose next week and make sure you let a friend know to do the same. Hey, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for listening to the Daly Dose every week. Thank you for the emails. Thank you for the texts. Thank you for the tweets. But more than anything, thank you for sharing the show, for sharing the videos, and for sharing the articles with someone that you know. We absolutely love it when you do that. Have to say thank you to Jess P. Could not do any of this without you. I will see you all next Wednesday. Have a great week and have a very safe and a very happy 4th of July.